Hello class! Today I want to show you how to make a couple different lids. And what we're going to be working with is something called a flange. The flange sometimes can be on the top or sometimes inside of the pot, but what it is an interlocking mechanism for your lid. And so I'm going to start for this first one by making a patty of clay. I can either pound it out, or if you have a rolling pin, you can use that. If you don't have a rolling pin yet, you probably would like to get one before we reach the slab assignments. Something you can easily get either online or at a thrift store, relatively cheap. But you will need one if you don't have one already. I'm turning this over and I'm just going to use my needle tool to trace around that shape. And this is just going to give me the exact shape of the top. So it just kind of fits. But this isn't enough. You can't just set this on top and call it good because it's going to easily fall back off. And so what I'm going to do is make a flange first that's going to sit on the inside of this. And then we'll go the opposite direction. So I'm first just cleaning that up with my sponge. And then I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to measure the inside. I also sometimes, we have another tool called caliper that will also help you do this, but in this case, I have to assume that you don't have one at home. And so I'm just going to mark off halfway across where I want to place that circle that I'm going to be placing on the inside. All right, and now I'm going to make a really nice uniform coil. And there we go. So we'll start with that. I can make this a little bit longer for the other flange that I would like to show you today. So I'm going to make this just a little longer. Hopefully I won't have to make two. And it's about 1/4 of an inch in diameter, roughly. Now, I'm going to use my serrated rib, and I'm going to make a score mark roughly in that space. And although the clay is really wet, I might want to mix a little slip on that surface. All right. So now I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to bring that around and have it reconnect right there. All right, and there's a lot of different kinds of lids. I'm just trying to think of lids that might be easier for you to do from home and also easier lids for hand building. So knowing that you're beginners and this is a more complex element for you to make, I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, but you can go fairly complex with lids. And you can take a look at the PowerPoint that I have online this week to see different kinds of lids that are more rounded or, and not just the lids themselves, but the flanges where they are, and the knobs or handles that people use to put the lids on and off. And you can see I'm just working that surface and making it really clean. The reason I start with a coil instead of a little flat slab is that I want to have more surface area for connecting, so to make it a little bit easier. Then this should just fit right inside of there, and it does fairly well. Now, I need to make a knob, and there's a lot of different ways that people are going to make a knob. You could make one by hand and shape it any way you want, slip and score that on. It could be an animal head or a more ornate shape. It's up to you. But for a simple little handle, just going to roll a little coil. I'm going to flatten it out, and I could just use my rib on that, get those edges nice and clean. on both sides. And I could simply slip and score and connect either a handle on, you know, like this, or maybe one that's more circular. But today I'm just going to pull out this pastry roller that I bought online. And I'm going to roll that, and it's going to make kind of an interesting texture, just to have it be just a little bit more interesting. And I can connect that on. So that would be one kind of a lid. Now, another thing that we can do is put a flange down lower on the inside. So this would be just a slightly different. And I am just going to make some score marks down about 1/4 of an inch. Or maybe it's more like a 1/2 inch down. It is starting to get dry, but it's still workable. And I'm going to make some slip on that surface. Alright, and then I can add my coil in. Now it's not going to be at the top, it's going to be down just a little ways. It looks like about 1/4 of an inch down. And I'm going to connect that on there. And then I'm going to connect it on the top and the bottom. Because we want this to hold up our lid. Alright, now as you go to make a lid, remember, just like everything else we do, sometimes it doesn't work on your first try. And if that doesn't, that's okay. Just remember to try it again and learn from that experience if it doesn't work. I remember practicing handles for a really, really long time when I first started working with clay. And I think that's normal to have to try something and then retry. Now when we look down from the top, it's really irregular. So I need to get in there and I need to fix that. You don't want to leave it looking like that. Please. Take your time, make that as rounded as possible. You could get in there after you clean this up, after it gets to leather hard, some more with your scrubby that we supplied in your toolkit. But do take your time with it. Now, gonna kind of round that off. And it's starting to look a little bit better. If we were not making a video, I would work on it quite a bit longer, but we need to kind of keep this moving. So I'm going to take another little patty of clay, and I'm gonna put this on top. And I can actually see where the inside is. I'm going to go in just about 1/8 of an inch from there, carefully cut this out. And this is actually going to nestle down on the inside instead of sitting on top with a flange. And I do make quite a few lids like this. Because I kind of like it when they kind of rest down a little bit. If it feels off to you at all, if it feels too thick, you can kind of pinch it and smooth it. But do take your time, more time than what I'm doing in this video. And then you can even paddle to make sure it's nice and even. Okay, this would eventually nestle right down inside of there. To give you an idea about what one looks like, this is one with a human head that rests down on the inside. So you can make, again, any shape knob that you want. Just remember you don't want to put it on there too wet or it'll stick on. So it has to set up, once you put that flange in, it has to set up to leather hard again before you start putting this on. You can measure it, you can look at it, you can make them, but you want this to set up to leather hard with its handle, and you want this to set up to leather hard so it can support it before you put them all the way together. All right, that's it for making a flange on the inside and a flange on the outside for lids. Thank you.